Hello, it's Kat, and welcome to today's live. This is your first time being here on the page, the War at Home, if only someone knew. Down below, there is a disclaimer because this is a public live and you can be seen publicly. And I just want you to understand that in case you decide you want to comment, you understand that your comments can be seen. Today, we're going to talk about isolation and what that looks like. I also want to talk a little bit about some of the things we got coming on onto the page while everybody's jumping in and getting ready to be here. So some of the things that we're going to do, we have a new mission statement. I'll have a video coming out to kind of go over new things, but I just want you all to know that some things are going to be changing in order to hopefully provide classes to people online and in at events and in-person events where um, we can give you the information that is needed for survivors and victims in a free class. It also depends on if it's hooked to a business, how that's going to work. So, um, excuse me. We'll also be having some merchandising coming on. Um, that will help feed those courses for survivors. And we'll also be having events where we're bringing awareness as to what coercive control looks like and how we can drive policies and changes in business and in society as a whole. Um, and if you want more information, you can reach out through the Love Project, agnes@gmail.com. So let's dive into today's work. And today's work is about isolation. And when I first got out of a bad relationship, I felt like I hadn't been isolated. I hadn't been kept away from people in the fact that I wasn't told I couldn't go places. I didn't have a good understanding of what isolation really is in this conversation. And so I was told, well, it's not what you think it is. This hair is driving me nuts today. It's not what you think it is. Um, it's done in that coercive control kind of activity that we're if we don't understand how that coercive control abuse works, then we can't see it. And so it's done in the background. It's done like things with, I remember hearing them say, it's like when you leave and you go somewhere and you come back and they're angry because you took too long, or they're upset because they missed you. And it's not about you and what you did, it's more about how they don't want you to be with those people or with that group. They are trying to whittle you down so that your social circle is less than ideal. Maybe just it may be just them, the abuser that wants you in their realm. So this idea of isolation in Biderman's work, he's talking about these methods that deprive the victim of all social support of their abilities to resist. It develops an intense concern with um, the other person, with the self, in how do I survive the tactics that are being used against me. And it makes a victim dependent on their captor. This is work, Biderman did this work for POWs, but he also understood how it worked in home settings. And we're talking also in workplaces and making people dependent on their job, that they can't say something or they can't do something that or they do something that goes against who they are because they need that job, they need that money coming in. You see, the variance can be this complete solitary confinement, and that can be done like, let's just say you only have one car. Now the person that you're with knows where you're going because they're either taking you or you need to share that ride with you, or your phone. They're constantly calling you on the phone. It can be this isolating you, kind of a partial isolation, where let's say they're okay with you being around a certain group of people who think that they're a good person. And so they withdraw you and try to drive wedges between you and somebody that they don't want to have that influence on you. You see, that's they can control a group. You'll have people that will be in relationships with people and they'll be like, my family went against me because they thought that he was such a nice guy. You even hear that um, in the story about Judy Malinowski, uh, who is the only person in United States history to testify at her own murder trial. But her abuser was using the um, the fact that she had breast cancer and had an addiction to opiates. He was using that against her to isolate her from her family, from the police when she'd call. That this person would just say she's drugged up or she's drunk, and they didn't look. The police didn't look. So there can be isolation in all kinds of different realms to think about. And I want you to think about that when it's happening to you. Is somebody putting you in a position where you feel isolated, like you can't move from this position? And if you look at all the rest of Biderman's work, you see threats and humiliation and all the things that were meant to isolate being used. It's not just like isolation is the only thing. It's other tactics that are being used within that isolation. I think about the car as being isolating because for me, when I would ride with the abuser, let's say we were going to a family gathering at a holiday, we would get berated in the car, and so we were all pulled back and withdrawn because we didn't know how this person was going to respond when we got to uh, the holiday gathering. And they were usually jovial and happy and all of that, while the rest of us were kind of pulled back. And we were pulled back because we had just been inundated with all this anger and uh, the abusive tactics that I talk about and the behaviors of the narcissist involved in that. Being in a car going at a high rate of speed or a short rate, lower rate of speed, you're stuck. And as a child, you're really stuck. And this is why I talk about it, because it was like, okay, these people have an anger management problem. But that's not what this is. This is calculated. This isolation of you is calculated. It's not because somebody just wants to be private. This is how this kind of tactic works. There may be time restraints that cause you to be isolated. There may be uh, constant phone calls, showing up at work. There may be shame. that's included. And if we look at shame that we feel because we're not enough, or we're there's something that is missing from us as to why we're in this situation, then we start to understand what this really is. It's not you. You need to look at the tactics of, say, isolation. We need to look at the tactics and how isolation fits in to the rest of those other 7 tactics that are being used. If we think about monopolizing somebody's perception with isolation, now they're telling you things about so and so said such and such, because they're monopolizing what they want you to see. That's another form of isolation, because they're trying to withdraw you from the perception of other people. So I hope that little bit helps in understanding a little bit of what isolation looks like, so that if you're in this kind of situation, you can go, okay, this is isolation. This is what Kat was talking about when she was talking about how this kind of tactic works, so that you can start to protect yourself from being isolated. I always say to drive straight lines to people, no triangles. So if somebody tells me that such and such said such and such, and I'm questioning whether that person is okay or not, I may go to the other person and say, did you say such and such? And they'll say, no, I didn't say such and such. And so, okay, I just wanted to know, or maybe they did say it. Then you have an idea about how you're being treated. And it's hard when you come out of these relationships, because you don't necessarily trust the world, but you have to ease into it. You have to really, if we get to the nuts and bolts of it, you have to really start trusting yourself, start trusting your intuition, start trusting to love yourself and not hold shame, that whole controlling your thoughts kind of thing, which I'll have a video coming out tomorrow. And there'll be some polling coming out. I'm going to change things up a little bit. So I hope you enjoyed this. I hope if you have some comments or you have some thought processes about what you think about what it is that I'm saying, that you make some comments, or reach out in a message and let me know what you think. If you like what we do, give us a like and a follow. If not, we're going to be okay one way or the other. I just want people safe in the homes and in their own privacy. You guys take care. Please know that you're loved. Bye bye.